Wives, submit to your husbands in everything.
Like what? I don't like the word submit. My wife listens to me. I'm the ultimate, I have the final say. It's generally true. I mean, we make decisions together, but there are some things that, like, if I put my foot down, she will listen. But then if she puts her foot down, she'll listen. I mean, I really think that the best way to have a productive relationship is to make a man feel like a man, which my wife does very well. You know what I mean? She gargles that shit. So, but submission is always so weird to me. Like, I mean, how strong of a man could you be if you need a woman that submits? Like, if you can't dominate a woman, like if you can't dominate a more, let's say, uppity, I don't know, more aggressive woman, like, you're kind of weak, But submit, listens to versus submits, I think is a good different thing. But okay.
Everything is what the Bible teaches.
Whoa, that sounds bad. What about the love Jesus stuff? I feel like that's a better part of the Bible.
And it is a sense of fear and trembling and awe.
Fear? I don't really want my wife to fear me. I'm like 6'4", big fucking guy. I know I look like a weird Redditor online, but offline I look super racist, like I'd say the N-word. Maybe that's why I have so many nerd things around me, to make it so people don't want to stay away from me. But fear and tremble around me, that's scary. I wouldn't want my wife to be afraid of me. That would make me unhappy. I want her to be able to express herself and advocate for herself. And if she's afraid to do that, if she's in fear and trembling, then how can she productively advocate for herself? I'm one person, and I'm a man. I'm stupid sometimes. And one of the greatest things about being a stupid person, but specifically right now a stupid man, and having a more expressive wife that will advocate for herself, is I don't have to always be super aware of her feelings. I try to be, but sometimes I get it wrong. And so my wife expresses her feelings to me. And so, like, I don't have to carry the burden of constantly overthinking what's good for me versus her versus our unit. So it's really good to have somebody who sets strong boundaries, expresses their feelings, their emotions, talks to you when they feel like something's going on, and they keep to you, and they don't fucking try to communicate with their brain like, oh, you should just know. Some things you should just know, but like, it's nice to get that feedback. So creating an atmosphere of fear doesn't really do that for anybody, or trembling doesn't do that for anybody.
Is the disposition of deference that the wife is to maintain towards her husband as she seeks to submit to him as the church submits to Christ, not only in things she agrees with.
It's so interesting that they reference Christ. I feel like Jesus would not be on this whole idea of like submission and fear and trembling. Jesus is like the God had a kid, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to chill out. Right? Like, isn't that how the Bible works? God's like he's like, oh, slavery's okay. And then he has a kid. He's like, you know what? I'm better now. Right? Isn't that the whole point?
But in everything, she belongs to him. He owns her.
Owns her? Like, listen, I'm into some toxic book talk stuff. So when my wife and I are together in certain sexual scenarios, my ownership of her might come up. We might have some pretty kinky shit going on. Outside of that, this idea of ownership, I mean, if you want to express mutual ownership, which I do, I own my wife owns me, I think that can be healthy, even if it's a little toxic, because it's fair. It's both directions. But this idea that like a man owns a woman, you understand that that's like a level of slavery, right? Like, you're trying to advocate for a woman to be a second-class citizen in their own life, in their own house, and with the one person that's supposed to be their best, most intimate friend. Like, that is toxic, weird, and pathetic, frankly. And I feel like maybe it says that in the Bible. I don't really care about that. I think that there's a lot of argument to be made that the Bible, weak people, like maybe this guy, were the types of people who wrote the Bible in ways that gave them too much power and maybe weaponized the word of God to be unproductive and to allow men to steamroll instead of like love. And you might say, well, no, Papa, you don't understand. Biblically, like, a man owns a woman, but they're supposed to treat them well, and it's like, I can appreciate that, but men are just as perfect as women. You're never going to be a good person unless you look at someone else as equal to you, specifically your wife or your partner, whatever, wife, husband, whatever the fuck. If you don't look at them as 50-50, you're never going to be a good partner, because you can never 100% know what they want, and there's going to be times in your relationship, and if you don't respect the person that you're with at least as much as yourself, like I do, you're going to make mistakes, and they're going to tell you something. And like, let me just express it differently. There are times where like something happens and my wife tells me something and it means a lot to her, and I don't believe her, but I still go, this means a lot to you. I'm going to do that for you. and I'm going to listen to you. And a lot of times, months from that, maybe a couple months later, I'm like, oh shit, that was the right thing. Good thing I respected this person enough to take their passionate perspective over my own. If you foster a relationship where you own somebody, like, how do you have that? You can't do that. Because if you own somebody and it's not mutual ownership, then you don't respect the person that you're with. So that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Now, he should own her lovingly.
Whoa. We already get the commentary on that.
Charitably. There's lots that could be said about the manner in which a Christian man owns his house, owns his wife, owns his children,
That's fucking crazy.
Owns his possessions, his resources.
I could never talk about owning my wife in the same sentence as possessions. Like, I own your wife like you own your house and your clock radio. I don't know, I'm getting old here. That's just, that is quite literally, that's quite literally objectifying your partner. Like, what are you doing? My wife is not within the classification of an object. Like, my wife is not a car or a house or like a broom. Sometimes she's a broom in a washing machine. No, actually, I'm usually the ones that fucking sweep and mop. Big jobs require big titties, I guess. Mine are big. What are you gonna do? Anyway, yeah, it's just it's dehumanizing. Yeah, it's ridiculous. The type of language, it's intentionally dehumanizing, I think, to justify being a fucking piece of shit to your partner. No,
we can say a lot about Christian ownership.
Whoa.
And how to do that, not lording it over those in your charge, but rather, so we can talk about that. But that doesn't take away from the primary point, which is it is still ownership. She belongs to him.
Yeah, I just disagree. I think that's weak. I think it's a weak thing to say.
In fact, you can't even break. This is quite a statement, but
let's hear your quite a statement.
I think it's true. I'm going to make it. You actually can't covet a woman.
Isn't coveting meaning like owning a woman? Isn't that what you're advocating for? It just means yearn to possess or have. So you can't covet a woman. So you can't like pine for a woman. Okay. Sure. I guess I agree. I don't know. I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
You can't break the 10th commandment as it pertains to a woman.
Okay. Well, it just says you shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, or his ox, or his ass. That's a donkey, or anything that's your neighbor's. That is such a strange take to have, because it sounds like nice to me when I hear like you shouldn't covet something. I guess one of the interpretations is you shouldn't pine for something so hard that you obsess over it in an unproductive way. But then I look at the 10th commandment that he's referencing, and he's referencing like you shouldn't be coveting what other people have. You shouldn't engage. I think is it envy or is it jealousy? I guess jealousy is where you want to like maintain your stuff. Like you're jealous somebody might, I don't know, take your partner, and then envious is when you want others people's stuff. I don't know, it doesn't really matter, but like it's saying that you shouldn't pine for other people's objects. So the 10th commandment is saying don't pine for other people's objects. So when you compare the 10th commandment to like your wife, again, you're just saying that you're just objectifying your wife at this point.
You really can only covet a man because the man,
that's gay. What? You can only covet a man?
Is the one who actually has ownership.
Oh, he's saying that a woman would covet a man. What?
It's him owning his bride, him owning his house, him owning his resources, him owning the children.
What about if she works? Do you own her resources? It's usually your both resources, but
right? They're seated each night at his table. It's not just our table. No, it's.
Let me tell you, my wife makes the choice on what our table looks like, so it's really it's her table.
It's my table.
Wow,
my
so
table.
Beautiful.
That the children and wife are gathered round.
Wow.
The fruit of his lineage, his name.
This makes him feel like, I don't know if you can really pick up on this, but like as he's saying this, he feels really good about himself. Like he's bragging, he's humble bragging right now. He's like, you sit around, this is my wife, this is my house, I earned this. And I think that there's something really positive and productive about like being proud of yourself and your wife and your kids and your family and your ownings and I think that there could see something like really productive about that. To stroke the male ego in a good way. Like there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times my wife calls things mine, like mine specifically. Like she'll say those are your car, you're this, you're that. Let me take your money. Let me go shopping with your money. And it makes me feel like a man. And I make more money than her, which is one of the reasons why. But like I feel good about myself. I think one of the best things a woman can do for a man is to make him feel like a man. As long as he respects that she is his equal. I think that that can be really great to like stroke a man's ego, literally and figuratively. I think that that's a really good idea. But I don't see the productive. I see the one direction of this is mine, but I don't see the direction of like I respect her as an equal. I don't see that. I see somebody who almost seems entitled to all the things that they have, and you might say, well, maybe he's working and she doesn't work, but it's like I don't think that you understand. Like, even if your partner doesn't work, you should respect yourself enough to be with somebody that will be putting in an equal amount of value to your relationship. So if I'm the only one working and then your partner's not working, but they're staying home and they're taking care of your kids, that's a big job. And your house, that's a big job. Keeping it clean. Have you ever done your own laundry? That's a big job. Like keeping the bed clean, stripping the beds and vacuuming, mopping and sweeping and wiping down the counter every night and cooking the dinner. What you're doing is you're saying, hey, I'm going to go work and you're going to take care of my home the way I want you to, because we entered a social agreement, and I want you to raise my kids the way I want you to as well. That's a hugely impactfully powerful, productive thing. And I don't see an equal value, like an equal intellectual value there, I guess, on that. I see like, oh, I own somebody and they just do what I want. But it's so difficult to find somebody to be in a healthy relationship that will, quote unquote, do what you want and truly align with your message. I mean, if I hire somebody to do something, generally speaking, they're not going to necessarily share my vision. But if I get with somebody, a partner, and we grow together and we love together, she's going to understand my vision in a way where even if I can't articulate how I want something done, she'll understand where I'm coming from, which is one of the beauties of being in a relationship, especially with your best friend, is that depth of like, they understand you on an intuitive level. So you don't have to express yourself like super specifically. They'll just kind of get it. And sometimes they won't. That takes time when you're growing together, but that's one of the greatest parts of a relationship. And so they understand what you're saying when you aren't able to explicitly say it.
His legacy. That's the language that the Bible uses. Whoa. And that has become utterly foreign to modern Christian ears, to where,
what the Sigma?
As we even articulate it in today's episode, I have no doubt that many will be enraged.
Okay. Terrible as terrible commentary. Cut that part out. I started reading somebody's name. Their name is Asmund Platinum. So I'm like, terrible Asmund Platinum. But it sounds like I'm saying a terrible Asmund Gold. So I sound like a weird obsessed freak. Anyway. Terrible video.